Welcome to Vinex Studio. Let's start making games.
Today we'll be seeing how to create a scriptable object and how to use them in Unity. Also, we'll be seeing the advantages of using a scriptable object over a prefab. So, what are scriptable objects? So, scriptable objects are basically data containers. They are just a simple C# script with different types of data types stored into them. And you can basically create more instances of the scriptable objects to create different game objects. Now, to create a scriptable object, you just need to create a C# script. So when do you actually use a scriptable object? Now, generally, we use prefabs when we need the same game object to be used multiple times in our game. Now, if you need to use a different variant of the game object in different scenes and they only vary by the value and not by the parameter, then you can use scriptable object. For example, you have a hero and you need to create another hero with different health, different damage, and different characteristics. So then you can just create a hero scriptable object and then create more hero game objects based on that scriptable object. So we'll take this example and we'll go ahead and create a scriptable object for a hero in our game. Let's create a scriptable object by right clicking in our project window and going to create and click on C# script. And we'll call this hero. Now you can just double click on the hero script and open it in your code editor. In my case, this is Visual Studio Code. So I'll open it in Visual Studio Code. Now the first thing that you need to do is you don't need these two using statements. And then you should not derive from mono behavior. You have to derive from scriptable object. So this will tell Unity that this is not a part of your game scene. So we don't require the start and the update function, and both of them will not work even if you have them. So this is the basic structure of a scriptable object, that you're using Unity game engine and you're deriving from scriptable object. Now let's go ahead and add some data to this. So first thing that I'll be needing is a public game object, and this will be my hero model. And then I'm going to need public string hero name. Okay. And then I'm going to need public float hero health. So now I've created a scriptable object for the hero class, and it will take in a hero model and it will take the hero's name and the hero health. So now let's go back to Unity and let editor compile the script. And as you can see, there's nothing much happening in Unity. And if you select the hero script, you can just see the script that we have created. Now to create more instance of this hero script, you need to have a way to create them. So let's go back to our script and we're going to say create assets menu, and inside that we'll say file name is equal to hero class, and I'm going to say menu name is equal to scriptable object slash hero. So this will add it to our menu in the project window, so we can create more hero type game objects. So let's go back to Unity and let's create a folder called hero. And inside hero, I'm going to create more heroes. So let's go to create, and you can see that a new menu item scriptable object has appeared, and inside that is our hero. So let's create it, and I'm going to call this cube hero. So the model name, you have to give a prefab or a game object to the model, and the name will be cube and health will be 100. Okay. So for the model, I'm just going to the prefab and drag and drop the cube here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create another hero. Create scriptable object hero. And I'm going to call this capsule hero. Let's go to prefab, drag and drop our capsule. And, name will be capsule and hero health will be 50. So now we have created two heroes. So how do we use them in the game? Now to use them, you have to create a script which derives from mono behavior, and you have to assign the scriptable objects to that script. So let's go ahead and create an empty game object, and let's call it hero create. Okay, and let's reset the position to 0, and let's create a new script called hero spawn. Now let's open hero spawn in Visual Studio for editing, and I don't need these two using statements. And hero spawn is derived from mono behavior. I don't require the update function because I'm not going to change anything. And the first thing that you'll require is public hero, and let's call this player. So this player is of type hero, and hero is our scriptable object. So next we'll say string player name, and we'll say float player health. So how do we get the name and the health from our scriptable object is just by saying player name is equal to player dot hero model, sorry, hero name. And similarly, you can just say player health is equal to player dot hero health. And you can also instantiate the player dot hero model comma transform dot position comma quaternion dot identity. Now we'll also say debug dot log, and we'll say player health, sorry, player name colon plus, and we'll say player health. Now we'll also debug, I'm sorry, name, and we'll also debug dot log, and we'll say player health colon plus player health. So now we can say in our hero create, we have a public game object which takes in a game object of type hero. So now we can just drag the cube hero into the player position. And if we hit play, you can see that a cube is spawned. And in the console, we are saying the player name is cube and the player health is 100. So you can drop in any hero that you create, and this script will spawn the hero there. Now, what is the difference between creating a prefab variant and a scriptable object? Now, we can do the same thing using a prefab variant by using the same script for all your prefab variants. So that way, you can just modify the script, and the prefab variants will also be modified. But the only difference is if you just drag this hero create, which is having a transform and a simple script, and if you just drag this into your prefab folder, and if you go to your prefabs folder and see that the hero create is 2 KB with just a script and a transform. And if you go back to your hero folder, the scriptable object is just 1 KB. If you have very few numbers of prefab variants, then it's better to use the prefab variant itself. But if you're having thousands of enemies and thousands of heroes, then think of the disk space that will occupy. And in our case, we are just using a transform and an empty script. And in case of a prefab, you will be having transform, components, colliders, so many that the amount of memory used will be enormous. So you can avoid all that by using scriptable objects. Other than that, the functional part is very similar. You can use a scriptable object or a prefab variant. It doesn't make much of a difference. But in case of memory and performance, scriptable object is a better way to do things. So that was about scriptable objects. If you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comment box below. Thank you and see you in the next tutorial.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share.